All right, I have that it's top of the hour here in Albuquerque, and we're going to go ahead and start our call. Our topic, of course, today here is Alert Program and Transitions, and I'm joined by my wonderful friend and colleague, Carla Cay Williams, so give a shout out. Hey there, Carla.
Hi, everyone.
And we're going to do... as many of you know, I've had the great pleasure of hearing Carla speak in person and worked with her for many, many years. Probably some days she feels too many years, but she does a lot of our international and introductory courses, and I'm really happy that you're with me here for this one, Transitions again, and that she's agreed to come back and talk with me again on our back-to-school call, which will be next month. So thanks a lot, Carla. So with Transitions, the main thing that we're talking about here, or going to focus on today anyway, is going to be talking about transitions as kind of what does it take to shift from one task to another, one task or one activity to another. And I made kind of a fun little sound effect here. I'm going to ask for forgiveness with people to bear with me on this, but I think we'll have some fun with it here. Oops, I did the wrong one. Hang on. Here we go.
With all sincere apologies to all the musicians with Fiddler on the Roof, our topic today, the Alert Program and transition.
And of course, everybody knows it's not actually called Transitions, it's called Traditions, but I thought that it just kind of struck me that it's probably quite perilous, just like in the song, that it's got that minor tones to it in the Broadway song. And obviously, those of you on the call, I apologize. You know that I won't be leaving my day job anytime soon to go to Broadway. But it just felt really fun because transitions are such a huge part of our life. And since we're only devoting our half-hour time again to it, we're going to stick with our idea and theme of keeping things really simple when we look at how to help and support our folks in their transitions, and also what can we do to help clients and family members, setting them up for success, because obviously that's a huge belief of all of us related to here in the Alert Program, and most of you on the call, I know, from the experience and background that we have with all the folks that are on the call here today. So I thought we'd start with a quote that is actually from our test drive book, a woman named Nina Araujo, who in her book called Easy Songs for Smooth Transitions in the Classroom. And those of you that haven't been on a call before, we will send you a sheet afterwards, an email afterwards, with the links to these and the actual citations and stuff, so that if you want to further delve into the things that we mentioned, you're certainly able to do that. But in her book, Easy Songs for Smooth Transitions in the Classroom, she talks about, and we were able to quote this in our test drive book, that on an average day, in a full day group program for daycare, children and adults experience between 16 and 20 transitions. And at 5 to 10 minutes per transition, that's about 3 hours of our day that are spent in this manner. And that's really just the school day. That's not our transitions to home and school and all of that. So it really does, it's a big part of our day. It deserves some consideration. It can be an excruciating part of our day when it doesn't go well. So we don't want to just muddle through. We really do want to have a plan. So hopefully in our time together today, we'll be able to give you some suggestions that you may already be doing, and it reinforces those, or hopefully some new tips and ideas that we've been able to find from others as we did the research for the call here. And Carla and I were talking just right before we got on, and one of the things that I was thinking about is that in my life skill functioning, that being flexible is a huge part of all of it. We all fluctuate in how we feel about what we're doing. How I notice for myself anyway, in my day, I may have a list of to-do things that I know I need to get accomplished, but I pick and choose often the intensity or the requirements or how difficult or hard some of those things are, based a lot on my feelings of my engine level, my resilience, when am I up for and ready for that kind of a topic. So while we're talking about it for a lot of our kids who may have some special needs, it's not really a special education. It's really kind of a life skill topic as opposed to maybe a special education topic. And the sad thing to me about that, when I look at it and we think about what Nina has said about how much time we spend in transitions and then thinking about how we pick and get ourselves set up to do some of the more challenging things in life, is that a lot of our kids don't get to make those decisions for themselves in terms of what are they going to pick to do now based on, some of their resilience, some of their ability to move into something else, giving them enough time to set up. I think, Carla, that's one I think I can fall short on a lot, is I feel like I have my schedule, I'm rushing, I know I need to get my things done, and here's this kiddo for whom it's taken a little longer for things to get done. And I'm sure many of you parents and therapists can feel that same way, because even in our therapy, our transitions to and from, into our sessions, out of our sessions, all those kind of things. So if we went ahead and right now in our call told you that, oh, we're sorry, we're going to have to change the time and the date of the call, and you're going to have to re-register, and you're going to have to do a different login code, you might have a change in your engine level, you might have a lot of feelings of fear or anger or whatever, and that's what a lot of our kiddos are feeling. That's how unexpected, I think, a lot of the transitions feel to a lot of our kids. And there's emotional feelings that come with it. There's engine level issues that come with it. So hopefully we'll spend some time kind of taking a look at that. So talk to us, Carla, a little bit about, especially for our kids where we give them time warnings. That's a nice idea, but sometimes we need to follow up more on that.
Yeah, a lot of times parents will say, I give them a warning, and then we'll talk a little bit about how much the child even understands time. Like, do they get it, what 5 minutes means? And so there's lots of tools out there, and we'll be talking about some later also. But you may have to literally teach them the skill of understanding what 5 minutes is. And Michelle Garcia Winner, who we're going to refer to later also, has some really fun games where you can teach kids how to estimate how much time things really take. And you literally just play the game. Okay, we're going to eat dinner. How long is it going to take us to eat dinner? We're going to drive to the grocery store. How long does it take us to get there? And see if the kids can even estimate, and then time it and share it with them. So there's lots of games like that you can play, but you may have to really teach the kids, if you're going to use warnings as a transition, how to even know how much time that really means.
Absolutely, and I was struck by this the other day because I was taking my niece out to a resort, and this is an example for New Mexico people only, because you can understand how wide open spaces we have out here. And we were headed to a resort that is nestled down in a canyon here outside of town, and it's a beautiful resort. And we had some car trouble on the way there, so we were getting the car fixed, and she did a great job of entertaining herself and not getting distressed about this was a transition, a kind of an unexpected thing that happened. We had car trouble on the way there, but we are going to make it. It'll be okay. And now we're back on the road, but it's taking a little longer than we thought. And so she asked me, how long till we get to the hotel? And I said, about 2 minutes. And she's just being the bright kid she is and very sweet, she said, well, I don't know about 2 minutes because I'm looking around. I don't see any big buildings here. And the great thing was that it's true. So the architects of that particular resort will be happy because the building is nestled down in. You don't see it as you approach it, and yet here it is. So what a smart girl. I am related to, I don't know where she got those genes, but kudos to my sister who had such a sweet little one who did understand time. But that was a perfect example, and she wasn't being smart about it. She wasn't disputing with me. She was just going, that doesn't really compute, And so that's what we want for our kids. We want them to know, how much time is that going to take me? Then diagnostically, I think we see differences in transitions, obviously. Some of our folks with attention deficit kinds of challenges, they're going to often it's a little bit easier, and they enjoy transitions more than they maybe enjoy diving in and focusing on stuff, especially if it's not motivating to them. And then we have our OCD, obsessive-compulsive disorders, anxiety disorders, some of our kiddos on the spectrum, autism spectrum, having a harder time shifting or taking a lot of comfort in the routine. And very often as therapists, I know you recommend this a lot in your clinic, Carla, is to make sure if you're going to have a lot of changes, make them within the routine. So you have a routine of we come in, we do this opening thing, we do at the table, we do this thing in the gym, we do this thing as we put our shoes on, and then within there you could go ahead and change up what's in the routine so we preserve some safety and comfort, and then but also do allow and develop that flexibility that we want for our kids. And then the other side of our ADD or attention deficit disorder kinds of things is very often when they get into something, they get into it to the exclusion of everything else, which can make parents and adults really crazy. But this is the kind of focus that gets you the Bill Gateses and folks of the world that can spend a day working on a computer program and not notice that a day has gone by. So somewhere in between all of that is the wonderful flexibility we want for life. So you had talked about that basically we're kind of teaching executive function skills.
Yeah, so the more automatic skills become because they learn it as a skill, it makes it easier for them to use it. So you can teach the skill of how you're going to make the transition based on what tools work the best for them, and we'll get into those a little bit later as we go along. So also, the parents have to be kind of a little bit in charge of what transition it's going to be and what they have to be ready for. So there has to be some setup even in the parents' or the adult's mind before the transition happens. So this is where if you've been to an engine course, you can go and use a lot of your tools, because if you're thinking about making a transition, say from the car to the store, you might have to think ahead about, can I park far away from the store? Are there movements we can do to get into the store? What's a song that we can sing when we're going in? Can we take things with us that will make it easier? Are we going to have to plan to get a cart and weigh it down? Time enough for the kiddo to push it in? All those kinds of things that you might want to think about to even get ready to make the transition before you even go on your task.
Absolutely. And that's huge, because sometimes as adults we're not always that organized. We get surprised by transitions too. So just keeping in mind that the more that we can do that setup, the more that we can start to teach how to do these transitions, the better off we're going to be. And then, of course, we've emphasized, if you've been on any of our other calls, co-regulation, huge deal, really important that we take care of ourselves in the transitions, that we set the tone as far as our own self-regulation and especially as our emotional regulation for the little folks or the big folks that we have in mind in life here. And that's emphasized in one of the little links that we'll send you to a nice online resource called childcareexchange.com, and they had a real sweet one on nap time tips that kind of that's a huge transition for our little ones when we have them in school. The whole, here we're doing school, now we're going to take a rest, then we're going to come back and do school, those kinds of things. It is a subscription situation, so we'll send you the link to that, and you can decide if that's something that would be helpful to you. One of the other things we talked about, a colleague that Carla Cay and I have gotten to learn a lot from, Lee Pennington-Neal.
She's a teacher that I actually was learning some handwriting strategies from, and in the course of learning from her, she used some terms that I really like, and she talked about kid time versus adult time. And when we think about adult time, don't we know that we are just doing what it is we're doing with always the future in mind. We're always thinking about when we have to stop what we're doing now to move on to the next thing and how long that's going to take and what time it's going to be.
And clearly our timeline is the most important
timeline. Exactly. So we're always thinking in the past and in the future with very little thought specifically about transitions in the time we're in. And kid time is absolutely, completely the opposite. In kid time, they're always thinking about just what they're doing. They're having fun doing what they're doing. They're creating in what they're doing. They have not a care in their mind or a thought in the world about what's going to happen next. And so while we're already planning ahead, the kids that we're thinking about don't have any idea that we're even thinking about the transition, and they're not either.
And we'll send you the link to Lee Neal's website, because it's really a nice, valuable tool. And as Carla said, she's a wonderful education therapist. If you get a chance to see her speak, go and do it. I have also had a great chance to learn from her and think that she's fabulous. Go ahead.
So with another thing that can really help with transition is visual schedules. And even if you have children that aren't on the spectrum, visual schedules and lists and all of those kinds of things can be really, really helpful to help kids plan for transitions. And even if you can take the time to show them what's going to happen next and talk to them about what's going to happen next, and they can see what's going to happen next, it just might help the transition be a little bit easier.
Absolutely. And then motivation. This is a hard one. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but I think just empathetically stepping outside of our adult time schedules, what we want done, how we want it done, how we think it's going to go, and looking at that when our kids are in something and they're enjoying it, there's not a lot of motivation to move to another thing, no matter what our schedule and timeline idea is. And I think of that for myself, that I love to play tennis. And if someone came to me from the office and said, Sherry, you should stop playing tennis now and you should read this article and edit it and get your work done or whatever, I'm not very motivated. And so, because I'm liking what I'm doing, and I might even be a little peeved that I'm being asked to do this other thing, and I'm not excited about it. And Carla said, well, as the therapist, she would say, well, Sherry, what about a cold drink with some resistive suck and a sensory strategy to kind of transition myself, understanding that maybe this would be something that I would need to do now. And so, just getting outside of ourselves and remembering how hard that might feel and how completely unmotivating it might feel to some of our kiddos, and really noticing that and working with it. And our adult timelines and transitions and stuff, we have another, it was a web link called Good Old Transitions and Sensory Issues. It's an article on sensoryandmore.com, and we'll send you that link. And this mom talks about, I thought this was so beautiful. She said, one of the easiest things to solve was between showering and going to sleep. We counted the number of things that he had to get done in that transition time. And since he likes numbers and he likes lists, he liked checking them off mentally and completing the tasks, and he felt responsible for that project and transition of getting from showering and getting ready to go to sleep. So that's wonderful. So just, again, using what we all groove on is going to be so important to help that.
And just remembering that any new habit takes a long time. It takes 21 days to break a bad habit.
Yikes.
So you can imagine how long it's going to take to set a new one. So you've got to give yourself time, whatever it is that you pick to do, to practice it and rehearse it and learn it. And then the more you practice it and it becomes a routine, things will change. And transitions that you thought were just unthinkable a few months before are just going to get so much easier and smoother as you practice.
And that's the thing. I think, when we're in it and when we're frustrated with it, we think, oh, we're going to be doing this for freaking forever. And that's just not true. We really do see our kids develop. We see them become things that they couldn't have handled earlier in the year or whatever, that they're actually able to do so much better. And that's what we want for life, because so much of a life is actually quite a surprise oftentimes in our schedules. Also, we'll send you the website for the socialthinking.com, which is Michelle Garcia-Winner's work. Carla had mentioned that before. She talks so much about how executive function skills are such a root on her sensory or her social learning tree. I'm sorry, here I am focused on the word sensory, but she calls it a social learning tree, and has a lot about executive function skills. And that's what we're talking about here, the thinking it through, the planning ahead, the thing that for so many of our kiddos is so challenging. And the more that we can model out loud what things are the same, what things are different, what things are expected, what things are unexpected, what things are big problems, what things are little problems. She's brought a lot of wonderful work to many of us as therapists and families that work with folks. So we want to make sure to take a look at that and notice that we're really changing a very huge brain kind of skill, and doing that in a good way, we hope, and setting up the support for that. We'll also send you a little bit of a link to an article that reminds us to allow time to break the transition into short, manageable steps. That parent did a great job when she said her kid loves lists and numbers, and they did the list, because we think, we think of it as the adults, let's just get ready for bed. That's a project, not a task. It has steps in it, and we may have to break it down into those little steps. And I think for many of you with kiddos on the spectrum, hopefully that article will be a nice resource, because that's a real good way to look at it. So we'll go ahead and talk about some specific strategies. Those of you that are familiar with the LEARN program know that we talk about 5 ways to change your engine, looking at that concept, and we'll talk about mouth, move, touch, look, and listen. So in the mouth category, remembering that it's not just about food, that we're looking at breath, and considering that a sensory strategy in the mouth. We talk a lot in the Take 5 book. I mean, I know many of you on the call have that book of ours, about how organizing suck is. Patty Otter, our wonderful colleague, was one of the occupational therapists that I think really brought that to the forefront for us as OTs to understand that. So even things like kazoos and harmonicas, I'm sorry, parents, for the sound there, but those kinds of things can be really wonderful. Singing, humming. We have a lot of kids who hum their way through what they need to do. As adults, we have a lot of people who do it. You'll look at people just humming themselves through their task or whatever. I have a cute little rap song for some of the middle school or late elementary school kids called Humdinger that you might want to take a look at. And then just breath work, taking deep breaths, doing breath patterns when we're stressed, when we're having trouble in our transitions, and chewing gum. Of course, we talk a lot in a lot of the different work, and many of you are familiar with using those kinds of mouth sensory strategies. In the move category, Carla, tell us about some of the things you've seen with some of the teachers.
I have had the opportunity and pleasure to work with lots and lots of teachers and lots of school districts. And with one group in particular, I've gotten to go back and get feedback years after they've implemented some of the strategies and talk to them about what worked the best. And what they really talk about almost consistently is that a lot of the tools have gone by the wayside, but what they use the very most that they always come back to is heavy work. And so they just put heavy work in every single transition. They do heavy work in the hallway with walking and skipping. They use animal walks. They walk backwards. They might twirl. They might, stand when they have to stand in line in the hall, pushing on the wall. And they find that if in the hallway kids keep their hands busy, they're snapping and clicking and walking with their hands on their head, playing imitation games, it really, really makes it easy for them. And so for them, every major transition, they just find that using heavy work, even coming in from recess and finding a card on the floor with a yoga position, and the kids
Perfect.
just know that their transition is coming in, looking at the yoga card, and doing it until all the kids are ready. And one of the things that we really want to think about is that sometimes to make those changes motivating for kids, we have to make it fun. And we have to get out of our box and figure out a way to make it playful, turn it into a game, turn it into a joke, change the subject, something that's going to make it motivating for them. And a lot of times you can make it really fun and add some heavy work in there, too, that's also just going to help them get grounded.
Absolutely. Like all that heavy work and music things, music with motions especially, I think, can just be so helpful. And again, those of you that have the Take 5 book, there's heavy work activities in there. You can look at, there's a nice website, a blog that will send you some information and link to where they talk about statue games. Again, getting that play in there when we're doing things. To me, statue games are kind of like, you could do that with yoga poses, really. I mean, yoga to me and a lot of those movement poses are heavy work, even though we're not moving in that moment. Another teacher has 1-minute activity breaks that she keeps in a little cup. We'll send you to her blog. It's called Keep Calm and Teach On. Very sweet little ideas there. Again, we're not talking about big budget items, but ways to keep it fun, keep it interesting, keep it motivating. And many of us even can go back to thinking about, I know we're talking a little more in the classroom here, I realize, but teachers that we loved, and there was something about what they did, and we had fun with it, but we got our stuff done. Those are the pieces that we're thinking of. I think we all have some memories somehow, hopefully, of school having some of those components in it. In the touch category, of course, weighted objects and having transitional objects. We get all excited. We don't want our kids to have transition objects, but those of you that travel a lot, you have your transitional objects, and we get mad when people want to take them away or send them through the scanner or don't treat them right or whatever. I know lots of adults that take their very own same pillow, even though the hotel has a pillow when they get there. So, and just knowing that lots of our kids need to hold on to us, things like that. Another teacher has what she calls a transition box, where she just keeps good fidgets personalized at each person's desk, and they have their transition objects they can just take and move and have on their person whenever they need to. In the look category, why don't you tell us about a couple here, Carla Cay, that we know lots of teachers are already using.
Lots of teachers and families use lights on and lights off, so teachers will give cues by turning off the lights because it's a really strong visual cue that it's time to change. And visual schedules, again, can just be so powerful. And in the TEACH program that some of you might be using with your kids on the spectrum, they really talk about doing a big color change when there's going to be a transition or something that's different on the schedule, that there'll be a big red mark on their visual schedule. And so kids visually can see, oh, there's something really big coming that's going to be different, and I now have tools that I know how to deal with that change.
Beautiful. we have all the kinds of word and letter games that can reinforce the academic concepts that we may have our kiddos work in. That's at home and school. So in the car bingo, the alphabet games when you're in the car and looking for letters on signs or different things. For our older kiddos, comic books, magazines, video games, of course. And then, the visual timers, we'll send you a link to a really sweet website where they had a way that they actually taught you how to create a visual timer that could display on your computer in your classroom. I thought that was really sweet. And then just one website that I love her blog. It's If I Only Had Superpowers, blogspot.com, and she just basically made laminated cards, the number 10 down to the number 1, and the kids would just hold them up, 10, 9, 8, and they do their countdown, just something that simple, but it's part of their culture, it's kind of fun, somebody gets to do the cards, all that kind of cool stuff. The time timers, which are visual timers many of you are familiar with, we'll send you a little link to their website so you can take a look at that.
And there was even 2 speech therapists that are doing a lot of teaching out there on executive functioning who talked about getting a regular face clock that you just get at the store. And if it has a plastic face, you could use a dry erase marker. If it has a glass face, you can use a vis-a-vis. And you just literally color in the amount of time so that kids can see on the clock what that time looks like and how to even see the big hand moving through the time and know when their time is running out.
Really nice. Good. Again, super good visual cues, really concrete, really hopefully easy to implement, easy and inexpensive to be able to implement. In our test drive book, Barb Piper, who's a special ed teacher and behavior consultant here in Albuquerque, talks about using songs as the auditory cue for the transition. And I know lots of teachers are doing this now. I think it's fantastic. It's going to help to cue in lots of our kiddos. We have some transition songs in the test drive book and CD, but there's so many audio clips you can get out there online that will help you. And again, like you said, making a game out of it. See if we can get all the toys cleaned up by the time the song clip ends. Or can you clean up this pile and I clean up this pile? Or do you think we can even do it, right? And then there's a number of transition kind of activities, songs with motions on our alert program CD that I know, again, many of you on the call have that, and they're just fun. We ask them to design heavy work songs that have motions for elementary age kids. We have so much great music for the little ones that's already out there that has marching and moving in it. We wanted something for our elementary and early middle school age kiddos there, so that's there. And then we'll send you some web links to some websites where they use song clips that you purchase and tie it specifically to a task, which I think is absolutely brilliant. So you have the theme music from the TV show Mission Impossible, and you tie that to the transition from this subject to that subject. And it's so cute, the idea of Mission Impossible transition, but it's great. And so like lots of these old song clips, they have the Jeopardy theme song and all this, and we'll send you the web links to this on this newmanagement.com, but they basically tell you how to purchase the clips and then set them up where they're organized specific to something. So again, remembering that rhythm hooks in memory, the songs playing help us to kind of get an idea of, that's right, this is when we change from this subject to that subject. I know what I need to do. I have to get my book. I have to put this away. I have to move my chair. I have to sharpen my pencil, whatever the pieces of it are. So we'll send you some fun things there. And then just dancing and playing with the music. So we've got about 2 minutes left, and we had a question from one of our folks. It says, my child has a particularly hard time getting out of the car, he's in his booster seat, to go into the store or the house. Do you have any suggestions? And one of the things that I was thinking of, Carla, which you said again, making it fun and having it be interesting would be just doing a pushing on the arms game before we even start unbuckling or trying to get the body to move out of the car. So pushing on each other, singing a little song together, doing a few little motions, that kind of thing. And then I know we could even look again at some of our oral motor things of using a strategy of sucking on a water bottle through a straw, or a juice box or something, getting some organization in there. So I think with that idea in mind for our person with that transition being challenging, go back through, think of our mouth, move, touch, look, listen. What could we do in those transitions? And sometimes it's as simple as that blankie goes with you till you get out of the car, and then it goes back in the car for our little ones. We don't know what's going to be the perfect thing.
And how to make that all motivating and fun.
That-
Why do they want to get out of the car?
Why do they want to get out of the car? What are we going to do now? Well, the clock tells me that our half hour is coming to a close, and this is the time for reinforcing. We hope that the ideas we gave you help keep it simple, and we want to set our clients and families up for success. I'll go back to and show my age that there's a great Carole King song entitled "Change is for Certain." So this is the truth about our transitions. They will be happening. We want to help set our folks up with very simple, fun, motivating things that help to make life a little bit more flexible, a little bit easier on all of us. I want to thank Carla Cay again for joining me. It's always fun to work together. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we'll do our common sense disclaimer by saying that as responsible adults, we have to use common sense when we're supporting other individuals. So if you felt that something that was mentioned here doesn't make sense to you, you have questions about it, it doesn't feel right, trust your judgment and don't do it. That is the point. So please use your common sense. Get more information if you need to from a therapist in your area, or contact folks here for some support. But you do deserve support if you're struggling with figuring some things out. I'm going to go ahead and play a song out here, knowing that, and then I'll remind folks that our next conference call will be in August. We'll be doing the alert program and back to school, which is kind of a sad thought for many of us at this time of year, so I'm sorry to even be bringing it up, but it is the deal here in Albuquerque. Kids will already be back at school. And Carla Cay will join me again. Those of you that want to register for that upcoming call, about 2 hours or so after we get off here today, it'll be available to register for the live one if you so choose, and in about a week, within the week, we'll have the recorded call posted. I always give my web folks a week to be able to find it and get to it here, so that they don't kill me, and I promise something too soon and am not able to deliver. So we'll go ahead and play out a song from the Test Drive CD called Best Work, and feel free to hang up when you can. Hope that things were helpful. Say goodbye, Carla.
See you later.
All right, back at you. We'll see you again.
Great place to be. My engine's bright, there's nothing stopping me.